Welcome to She Sells Radio. Oh my goodness. I can tell you right now that this interview today is going to be inspiring. It's going to be mind expanding and it's going to be emotionally moving too. And if you aren't familiar yet with my guest, Glenn Lundy, first of all, I'm sure you are because I know so many of you are huge fans of the room he's created on Clubhouse and know him already. But if you are not familiar yet, get excited for a conversation that is going to truly change your life and expand your vision of what's possible. So, before we get into the interview, I want to share just a bit of his background and then we're going to get into it. So, Glenn Lundy is a husband to one and a father to eight. So, mad props right off the bat. He's the host of the wildly popular Facebook Live show Rise and Grind and the top clubhouse group Breakfast with Champions. He's been seen at places like Hustle and Grind Con, Grow Your Business for God's Sake, and many more stages across the country. He's been spotlighted on ABC, NBC, and CBS, and he's an expert in dealership culture development and leadership training. With a background in sales and finance, he uses his skill sets to create growth as well as tapping into the mental side of human development. Glenn, welcome to this show. This is going to be so fun. I can't wait for our conversation.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's absolutely an honor to be able to spend some time with you today. So thank you for
Oh
having
my
me. I really
gosh.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you too, I'm so inspired by your background and your personal story. And as I was prepping for this, I learned we always see people at a certain stage of development and we think, oh, like they've just got it all figured out. Things have been quote unquote easy for them. Like our brain will
Uh-huh.
tell us that story. And the truth is it never was. Anyone I think who's built anything really big has overcome major challenges and hardships along the way. And that's just part of, to me, it's like that's part of the refining process. But as I was researching for this, it was like, wow, I learned a lot about your personal background that I hadn't known before that I thought, this would be like, this is so inspiring for people to hear about some of what you've overcome to go on to build this incredible brand and have you, in the pre-chat we were talking about, like you've been on the road for what about 8 weeks now, a couple months, just like going around
Yeah.
training all these dealerships. I mean, you're super in demand right now with your business and what you're doing. But can you share with us, take us back to around, I think it was around 2005 in your story when you share that you were homeless, right? And even behind bars, and it sounds like considering suicide or attempting suicide. And somebody to look at you today would say, gosh, you wouldn't imagine that looking at you. But take us back to your story and kind of what got you up until that point, and then what changed for you that created the Glenn that we know today.
Yeah, it's just interesting how life can get at us, right? How life
Mm,
can start to tell us lies and we convince ourselves that this is the truth and this is reality. And so back in that season of my life, I very much had a victim mindset. I had this belief system that everybody was out to get me, whether it would be I wasn't successful because I was black, or I wasn't successful because I came from this area, or I wasn't successful because I wasn't a brother, a mother, a sister, a cousin of the people whose names was on the wall. Like I just had this victim, very, very much a victim mentality. And that victim mentality caused me to continually take actions that ultimately didn't serve self, right? I
mm,
continued to burn bridges, continued to have terrible relationships. And so I was in the automotive space and my career was going okay. But my relationship all outside of that were terrible. And so really a catalyst was I had a 6-year-old little girl, my firstborn, and I lost custody of her when she was 6, and her
wow.
mom took her, uh, took her from me, which I take responsibility for because I wasn't a great dad.
Sure.
Actually, that's a lie. I was a great dad, but I wasn't a great dude outside of that.
Yeah.
And so that kind of sent me on this little bit of a spiral, and I ended up moving from Arizona. I ended up, just kind of meandering and making my way and continuing to burn bridges along the way while I was pointing the finger at everybody. And one day, Elise, I just woke up and
Mm.
there I was, homeless in the streets of San Diego, California, nowhere to turn, terrible credit, no money, all of
Yeah.
those things. And out of options, it felt like, right? And so during that season of my life, I would ride the bus. They have a bus that runs 24 hours a day out there. And that was always the safest place for me to
Mm,
sleep at night. So I would sleep on the bus. And then in the morning, they'd pull into the bus depot and kick me off the bus at like 6 a.m.
mm.
And I would spend my day looking for change, um, and just enough change to get a sausage McMuffin with egg and an orange juice, right? Because I figured that would cover all the food groups, right? You got sausage, you got protein, you got cheese on that sucker, you got bread,
Strategic
right?
thinking.
So we would hit the dairy, we'd hit the bread, we hit the meat, we'd hit all those things. We had some orange juice. So I'd hit all the food groups. And then I'd spend the rest of the day walking around in um, one of the most beautiful places on the planet, right? And so I was surrounded by decadence and beaches and families and people on rollerblades and people
Yeah.
lifting weights and all of the things and these multi-million-dollar houses and these beautiful sunsets. And it was just um it was difficult to be where I was surrounded by all of that abundance and still blaming everyone and everything for me
Mm,
being in that position. And so I would walk the streets there on the or the sidewalks there on the beach, and I would look for dimes and nickels and pennies and quarters because I could never bring myself to ask people for money. So I would just look for loose change and get enough change to get back on the bus and do it all over again.
wow.
And I went through that cycle for a while, and it's crazy because it was kind of like Groundhog Day. Like every day was the same, and most people think homelessness would suck because you don't have any money, you don't have a roof over your head, da da da. But really, what the worst part of homelessness is you start to become invisible. And so
Mm,
people won't make eye contact with you after a while. They'll look above you, below you, to the left of you, to the right of you, but they won't look at you, right?
wow. Yeah.
They're afraid if they make eye contact, you're going to ask them for money or you're going to mug them or whatever.
Mm,
So you become invisible. So here I was, like, I mean, I'm like a park bench. I'm like just background. I'm like the sand that's on the beach. I'm just background while all these other people are living their lives. And I started to feel, after living more and more days like that, I started to feel, totally invisible. That invisibleness led to a hopelessness. That hopelessness led to depression. The depression led to suicidal thoughts. The suicidal thoughts ultimately led to me attempting to take my life in the Pacific Ocean over there.
mm,
And I do want to share something real quick when it comes to that.
please.
I know that there are listeners out there that have had probably had someone in their lives make a decision or knew someone that made that decision.
Mm,
And, it's an interesting thing. I always used to think that suicide was a very selfish act. And after experiencing what I experienced, what I realized was that I really believed that if I took my own life, that would be the most loving thing I could do for my mom because she wouldn't
mm,
have to worry about me anymore.
wow.
It would be the most loving thing I could do for my sister because she wouldn't have to be embarrassed that her brother's some freaking homeless dude out in California. Like, I really believed that this act was an act of love for
Mm,
those that had loved me, that I had let down. And so I just like to share that with people because sometimes we think it's very selfish, but I personally, it was a selfless act.
mm,
I really thought it would be better off
yeah.
for the world if I wasn't in it. And
Yeah.
so attempted to take my own life there, was not successful, clearly. Otherwise, this would be the most interesting interview you've ever had. Um,
We've done some
period.
interesting things here, but this would be next level.
um, but right after I attempted to take my own life, I was laying on the beach, um, looking up at the stars. And to answer your question of kind of what changed,
Yeah.
in that moment, as I was looking up, I heard, call it God, call it conscious,
Mhm.
call it whatever you want to call it. But I audibly heard these words. And the words were, "You take yourself wherever you go."
Hmm.
And an old mentor of mine used to tell me that when I was like in my 20s, right? But when I was in my 20s, early 20s, I I knew everything. I
Mm.
thought I knew everything, right? It wasn't until I hit my 30s that I realized I know some things, and now that I'm in my 40s, I realize I know absolutely nothing. Like
Yeah.
comparatively
Yeah.
to all of the knowledge and wisdom that exists, I know nothing, right? But in my
Mm.
early 20s, I thought I knew everything. And so I didn't listen to him. But in that moment, I heard those words, you take yourself wherever you go. And it triggered something in me where I started to look back at my life and I looked at the different jobs that I'd had, the different relationships that been in, the different cities that I'd lived, the different clubs that I'd gone out to, all of the every scenario in my life was different and unique. The people around me were different, the environments were different, but yet the results were always the same. I'd
Mm.
always end up in a jail cell, in a bad relationship, drugging, drinking, whatever it was. And so it hit me. It was like, oh, that's what he means. You take yourself wherever you go. So there was only one constant in every situation of my previous life, and that was me. I was the only constant. So here I was blaming everybody else for the circumstances of my life. But I finally realized in that moment, like, bro, you are
Mm.
creating this existence that you hate so much.
Wow.
And so, at least in that moment, I thought, okay, well, if I created everything negative in my life, does that mean that I can create positive things in my life?
Mm.
And then being the student that I am, that sent me on a journey of self-discovery because I had to figure out like where does this ability come from? Like how is it that we can create negative and positive things in my life? Like I need to know, I need to understand where is that in my DNA? Like why?
Yeah.
And so I started learning more about self. I studied Scientology for 6
Mhm.
months, and a very interesting path for me because Scientology taught me a lot of things about my subconscious mind and my conscious mind, but it also introduced me to this idea that we are spiritual beings, that we are
Yeah.
mind, body, spirit, that we're three-part. So I spent 6 months doing that, and then at some point, I felt like that wasn't necessarily the path for me, and so I started studying Buddhism and
Mm.
Christianity, Catholicism, so on and so forth, and ultimately found my way to a spiritual understanding through the story of Jesus and the Bible. And once I started to understand that, I'm like, oh, okay. So we come from a creator,
Yeah.
which is why we can create, but
Mm.
now how do we hone that skill in? And so I started studying Les Brown and Eric Thomas and John Maxwell and Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and just started studying, all the great self development, Napoleon Hill, all the great self development people of the ages, so that I could understand how we can take this ability to create and use it in a positive form and fashion to be able to create the life that we dream of. And that's been my journey now for the last 15 years, is just trying to remember on a subconscious level how powerful we truly are and taking full responsibility for everything that exists in my life and doing everything in my power to shift what used to be a negative energy that I had created around me into a positive one by making a positive impact in other people's lives as I learn and I grow on my journey.
Oh man,
So yeah,
gosh.
so
Oh,
there's the path.
to me, it's like that is the story of everyone who I don't know if we ever reach true enlightenment in this lifetime, right? I love what you said about the older I get, the less I realize I know. So I'm kind of on
That's
that
right.
journey too. But it's like we always, I mean, so much of my life I sought outside, right? Success outside, validation outside, money, all the things. And then we each have our own story, and yours was so powerful. And thank you for sharing that because that was
Mhm.
very vulnerable and helpful because to your point, we all know someone who has thought about committing suicide, has done it, et cetera. So I think that's just a helpful reframe for so many people. But whatever our own personal story is, like I think it's all leading us to that point of realization of it's all inside. It's an inner game. And so for you, what I'm curious about is how long did it take for you to start really diving into that study and shifting your focus until you started seeing actual changes in your outside world? Was it like an overnight, like, boom, I'm like up from the beach and now I'm gone and I'm like, like life has changed the next day? Or what was the process like? Because I think that's helpful for people to have perspective too on
Sure,
what that looked
sure.
like.
Yeah, years. Like I'm
Mm,
still on that journey, right?
yeah.
Like it's, in the beginning stages, it was okay. I'll take 2 steps forward, and then 3 steps back, and then it became 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and then it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and now, it's I can honestly say it's like 9 steps forward, and then I'll still take a step back, right? Like
Yeah. Which is
the-
helpful for
we
people to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
we always fall back. I feel in my experience that there's always moments that I fall back. There's pieces of me that existed for up until I was 30 years old, and now here I'm 44. So you don't undo 30 years of programming, which is really what it is.
Mm,
You don't undo 30 years of programming in 15 years. Like it could take twice as long to
yeah.
undo what's been done. And so as far as seeing results, you kind of have to be careful with what you consider a measurable, right?
Mm,
Sometimes a result can be waking up and being grateful for another day, whereas I used to wake up and wish that I hadn't, right?
mm,
Like
yeah.
a result could be a financial result, a fitness result. It could be, but we just have to be very careful. So I had wins right out the gate when I decided to connect with and learn more about the spiritual side of myself. That was a huge win because I fought that for most of my life. Like I didn't believe that we were spiritual beings. I thought we were,
Mm,
flesh and bone and dirt and mud. And I was a huge fan of Darwin. I was a huge fan
mm,
of evolution, which I still believe has a lot of scientific stuff to it.
mhm.
But the way I had interpreted Darwinism was it's me against you, and if I get over on you, that means I'm stronger, you're weaker, too bad, so sad. Like
Yeah.
that was literally my mentality. I would build relationships with the intention of benefiting from them in some
Mm,
way, shape, or
mhm.
form. Legal, illegal, wrong, right. There was no
Yeah.
wrong and right. In my eyes, it was kill or be killed.
Mm,
And so once I stepped into a spiritual understanding and was able to take it to mind, body, and spirit, right? So let me simplify this. My mind used to say, if it looks good and feels good, the answer is yes.
mm,
That was my old mindset. If it looks good and feels good, the answer is yes.
yeah.
Whereas now it's if it looks good and it feels good and it is good, then
Mm,
the answer is yes. And
mm.
that was a big spiritual shift for me. And that's when I really started to have some growth and gains, is when I was able to add that third element um, into my life and began to explore that.
Interesting. Interesting. I love that. Tell us a little bit about, because so much, obviously you've got this huge brand that you've built in the automotive space. Like I said at the beginning, we're not going to go too deep into that, even though I know it would be like a treasure trove, and no matter what we're selling, we could get, a ton of insights from you. But also another big piece of your brand is this focus on morning routine. And you've got Breakfast with Champions room. You've got your great morning routine ebook, which we're going to link at the bottom of this, and I'll have you tell everyone about at the end. But for you, tell us about. I think we all know we need a morning routine. Some of us do it more diligently than others. But what are, I guess, one of the top like 1 to 3 things that you do in the morning that you've seen the biggest shifts from? Tell us a little. I guess actually, let me back that up. Tell us first why for you is morning routine so important, and then the
Yeah.
second part is what are your top 1 to 3 non-negotiables?
Okay, so first, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share a story with you. You may have heard
Awesome.
it once before. I'm going to share it with all of your listeners. Okay. There's a story called The Three Little Pigs. You ever hear the story of the Three Little Pigs? You ever hear that story?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, you've heard it. Okay, good. You have good parents. Every
Yeah.
once in a while, I ask that question. People are like, Three Little Pigs. I'm
People
like,
haven't
sorry,
heard
your
it?
parents didn't love you. I apologize for that. Right. All right.
Oh
But
my
listen,
gosh.
so there we had this story of the Three Little Pigs, right? And everyone knows that the big bad wolf was coming, right? Big
Yeah.
bad wolf's coming. And so the Three Little Pigs decided they needed some type of shelter from the big bad wolf. And so the first little pig was like, well, I'm going to build a house out of straw, right? Because I'm going to do it quick. I want to make sure I get to the party tonight. I'm going to build it out of straw. And so he throws it together real quick and he takes off, right? And he heads out to the club. So the second little pig.
I like this version of the story.
Yeah, this version's awesome, right? So the second little pig looks at the first little pig's house, goes, bro, that is not going to protect you from the big bad wolf. I kind of want to get to the party too. I'm going to be a little bit late, but I'm going to make mine out of wood, right? So he takes wood, he takes nails, he puts his together. It's a little bit stronger. He's not sure it's going to hold up. He's a little late for the party, but he heads out and he gets it done, right? Now, the third little pig looks at his brother's work and he's like, this ain't going to hold up, right? Yeah. So the third little pig goes on Google and he looks up how to pour cement perfectly and how to lay bricks. And he educates himself on framework and structure and all the things. Completely misses the party, right? Doesn't get to go to the party. Builds this immaculate building made out of brick and stone, right? So we've heard this story. Now, the big bad wolf comes to town. And he goes to the first house made of straw, right? And if you remember, he knocks on the door and he says, little pig, let me in. Yep. And the pig says what?
Not by, oh my gosh, it's coming back. Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Is that right? Wow. Chin, power of the subconscious, right? That thing just came back.
Yes, it's beautiful, right? And he huffs and he puffs and he blows the house down and the pig goes running off, right? Goes running off. So then he goes to the second house made out of wood. He knocks on the door. He says, bah, 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 bah. Little pig, let me in. And the pig says,
not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Yes, perfect. I love it. And he huffs and he puffs and he blows the house down, right? Mm-hmm. So then the wolf goes to the third house made out of brick. Knocks on the door. Little pig, let me in. Pig says,
not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Chin, boom. And he huffs and he puffs and he huffs and he puffs and he huffs and he puffs. And he's not able to blow the house down. And he goes away, right? Now, in the old medieval version, it gets morbid. After that, the pig climbs up on the chimney, pours oil on him. It's crazy, right? But here's the point and the reason that I want to share this story with everybody that's listening. If you go to that book, the Little Pig book, there's a piece that everybody missed. About 3 pages before the end, the wolf is outside the door of the brick house and he can't get in. And inside the house is all 3 pigs. All 3 pigs. The reason we have to have a powerful morning routine is not for self. We have to have a powerful morning routine so that we can be a strong foundation for the ones that we love. You see, most people aren't going to do the work. They want to go to the club. They want to go to the party. They want to go do all the things. So we are called as leaders. We are called to do the work, to study, to learn, to grow, to invest in our own foundation, our own strength, our own building, right? Our own blocks, so that ultimately we can protect our spouses, our children, the people that we get an opportunity to lead, right? And so the morning routine is that. The morning routine is your time to build self, mind, body, and spirit. It is your space. It is the most selfish time of the day. It should be the most selfish time in the day because it's the only time of the day that you're going to get to be selfish. As soon as the day hits, emails, text messages, phone calls, kids need this, spouse needs this, job needs this, whatever it is, right? We're all running through life every minute of every day. And so the morning routine, that's our solitude. That's how we dig deep roots. And once I learned this, oh, Elise, I'm telling you, game changer. And I studied everybody's morning routines, right? Yeah. I did the cold showers. I did the meditation stuff. Like I studied all of them. And I figured out 5 simple steps that you can do every single morning, that I do every single morning. 5 simple steps, what I call an extraordinary life. And it's really this easy. Step 1, never hit the snooze button. Never.
Why not? Just, tell us why.
No problem. So back in 1970, GE actually invented the snooze button. And what they didn't realize is that they had released Satan into the world in that moment. And here's why I say that, right? Satan is known as a liar, and so is the snooze button. The
Ooh.
snooze button lies to you and says, if you lay here for 7 more minutes, you'll feel more rested.
Uh,
7, 3, 12,
yeah.
15, whatever your snooze is. If you lay here this many more minutes, you'll feel more rested. Not never, never once has anyone said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I snoozed. I feel so much better now. No, you wake up more groggy. Why is that? Well, there's a science of sleep cycles. And once
Mm.
you understand the science of sleep cycles, you'll understand that we sleep in patterns of light sleep, then we go into deep or REM sleep, then deep, then back to REM and back to light. Those cycles and patterns are based on your behaviors. They usually last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours.
Mm.
Your alarm is set based on your patterns, your typical routines and patterns. So your body's already in a light sleep state. This is why we wake up 3 minutes before our alarm clock a lot of times, because we're already in a light sleep state. When you hit snooze, it sends you into the next sleep cycle. And guess what? You're going to go through that whole sleep cycle, 2 to 3 hours long, whether you're awake or not. Your
Oh,
body
snap.
is going to go through it. This is why people are down in gallons of coffee every morning, energy drinks every morning. They're trying to get rocking and rolling. And maybe by 10, 11 o'clock, now they feel amazing. It's because they hit the stinking snooze button. It's really that simple. So
That's
step
wild.
one, never hit the snooze. Or in other words, snooze is the devil. Don't play with the
Can't forget
devil
that.
first thing in the morning. All
I love
right.
it.
That's one. Number two, don't touch your phone first thing in the morning.
Mm.
Now, I know usually when I tell those two things, we lose about 97% of our listeners. They're
Right.
like,
Oh,
this
ours are
guy's
still here.
crazy.
Ours are still here. They're good. They're into this. Yeah, this
Okay,
is
they're
good.
good. All
Yeah.
right. But no phone first thing in the morning. So this guy right here, as we all know, when we pop into this, most likely everything that you're going to see right away is either going to pull your attention in a certain direction, or in a lot of cases, it's going to have a negative energy to it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Something bad happened at work, somebody passed away overnight, violence, destruction, despair, the news, all of the different things. When you first wake up in the morning, that is when your brain is most active. It is consuming, right? It's going, where am I? Am I safe? Where did I sleep? What do I have to do? Da, 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 da. It's consuming information. So when you grab this thing, it's literally just feeding your mind straight poison first thing in the morning. You're not ready for it. You haven't taken the time to build a strong foundation. You're not ready for this thing first thing in the morning. Now, here's what's crazy, Elise. People have gotten so addicted to their phones. The first thing we used to do in the morning is pee.
Mm.
Now
Mhm.
people are on their phone before they even pee
So
first thing in the
true.
morning,
Oh my
right?
gosh, that's so true.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow.
It's
Hmm.
incredibly addictive. It's not good. It's not healthy. Now, don't get me wrong. You can build your entire career around these things like this. This is an incredible tool. And I know it's hard to see with the thing. This is an incredible tool. However, you got to stay off this thing first thing in the morning
Mm.
until you've built the foundation to be able to handle everything that you're going to absorb
Yeah.
once you go into that thing,
I
right?
agree.
So step one's no snooze. Step two is no phone. Step three is gratitude and goals.
Mm.
Write down the things you're thankful for and write down your goals. Now, I know that sounds like two steps to a lot of people. They're like, well, why isn't that three and four?
Yeah.
And here's why. I believe, Elise, most people know that they should write their goals. Somebody told them they should write their goals. They heard that they should write their goals. But yet, 90% of people never write their goals. Why is that?
Mm.
I think it's because they tried once or maybe twice and they wrote, I wish I had more money.
Mm.
I wish I had a bigger house. I wish I was better looking, right? And when they looked at their list, they're like, golly, I suck. Like
Yeah.
it became a
Yeah.
negative energy,
Yeah.
right? My house is too small. I ain't got no money and I'm ugly. Is basically, so who wants to go
Yeah.
back and do that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Whereas if we start with gratitude, I'm thankful I have a roof over my head.
Mm.
I'm thankful that the lights are on in my building. I am thankful for my health that I woke up today because there's 77,177 people that didn't.
Mm. Wow.
Now, when we reach for a bigger house, more money, all of those things, we're coming from a positive energy, a positive vibration.
Mm. Yeah.
Grateful for where we are, but still extending and reaching for more. So
Huge.
I
Yeah.
see step three as one step. Do
Mm.
your gratitude and your goals, put them together to get the results.
Amazing.
Step four, take care of the physical. An
Hmm.
object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. Don't wake up early. Don't snooze. No phone. Do your gratitude and goals, and then go sit on the couch and eat a sandwich. It ain't gonna work, right? We got to keep moving. We got to keep the body in motion. Now, I
Yep.
don't care if you walk, run, play golf, play basketball, do yoga, calisthenics, whatever. I don't care. Just stay moving, stay
Mm.
in motion, right? And take care of the physical. We got to use these vessels for as long as we can. So, no snooze, no phone, gratitude and goals, take care of the physical. Now, step five is the most important of all the steps. Once you've done these four things, you should be vibrating in a very, 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 very powerful frequency.
Mm.
What we want to do now is we want to see you've basically been selfish all morning. Congratulations. You
Yep.
deserve it, right? Now you're vibrating, you're in a power place. Now we want to release that powerful energy out into the universe. So,
Mm.
step five is to send out an encouraging message,
Mm.
whether that's a text message to someone, a Facebook message, a sticky note that you put on the mirror for your spouse. Maybe you go whisper, "You are amazing," to your
Mm.
children while they're sleeping. Whatever it is, you want to release that positive energy out into the universe. And here's what's crazy: when you do this, I'm telling you, when you do this, not only does it make a massive impact on the people that receive it, but it ends up coming back to you tenfold.
Oh.
And there's actually science behind that. Energy on this planet cannot be created, it can only be converted. All of
Mm.
the energy that exists in the world today is the same amount that existed from the beginning, it's the same amount that'll exist in the end. So when you release positive energy out into the universe, it has no choice but to convert and ultimately come back to you. This is why all historical texts talk about this. Some of them call it karma. Some
Yeah.
of them in the Bible, it says, what you give, you'll receive tenfold. They're all talking about this energetic exchange. So it's so powerful to be able to make an impact in someone else's life and then also receive the reward from it. So, step five, send out an encouraging message. You do those five things every single day. Consistent discipline compounded daily equals transformation. I assure you, change the way you start your day, make a massive impact in your life.
Oh my gosh. I got to tell you, I've studied a lot of morning routines. I've done my own morning routine for years and years and years. And but there was a new level of depth that you just brought to it that I'd never experienced before in my own thought process. And that step five, I don't do right now. And I'm so
Mm,
like not intentionally, right? It's more like,
sure.
oh, if it feels, if I get the idea or the impulse, I'm gonna add that in. I'm so
Yeah,
excited. I love how you explained it scientifically too, because I'm like, that is our jam over here in She Sells World. It's like, let's get into the quantum physics of it. Let's get into the energy of it.
that's
Let's
right.
get in, like, let's get the science of it, right? But it's such a powerful way to live and create. So, gosh, thank you for breaking that down
Yeah,
in that
you
way.
bet. Thanks
Oh,
for
that
giving
was
me
so
the
good.
space.
That was so good. One more question, and then two more questions, but the last one will be fast. So if you
Okay.
got a moment, I'd love to talk
Yeah, I'm all
about
yours.
awesome, awesome. One of the biggest things that I know our audience struggles with is confidence in promoting and marketing themselves. And we've got people who are sales professionals working for another organization. We've got a lot of entrepreneurs listening, and it comes up again and again. I hear this from people. It's like, I feel weird putting myself out there. I feel uncomfortable putting myself out there. How do I do it more confidently? And I think what's especially powerful, I think you're brilliant at this. So I think you're great at, I mean, just even like
Thank you.
going through. Yeah. And I can tell it's from a place of service too. So I want to say that it's not like a bunch of hype and fluff. It's like from a true place of service, but you're also very visible. Like you promote what you create, you get it out there. You're a good ambassador of it. But to also know that you went through a period of your life where you felt invisible, right? So a lot of our listeners who have that fear of visibility, they may not have experienced it to that extreme. And I think to know some of your background and have context to say you could go from that to now being an excellent, spokesman of the products you've created and what you're putting out into the world, which is part of sales, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what's the mindset that someone needs to adopt to get super confident about marketing and promoting themselves?
I I don't know necessarily. So confidence comes from competence, right?
Mm,
The more competent we are at anything, the more confident we will ultimately be, with a little caveat. And the caveat is I don't want anyone to think that I or any of the other people that you see don't still have doubts
mm,
or thoughts, limiting beliefs.
yeah.
Um, those things all exist. We just execute despite them, right?
Mm,
And so I realized a long time ago I was studying, and again, I study all kinds of crazy stuff,
I love
but
it. Yeah.
I was fascinated by the alpha lion because everybody wants to be the alpha lion, right?
Mm,
Rah, king of the
yeah.
jungle, right?
Yeah.
Or lioness, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I found an interesting fact. I found out that the alpha lion actually has the shortest lifespan
Hmm.
of all the lions. Uh, and all of the male lions desire to be in that position, but ultimately it is only the strongest and the ones that can overtake the opposing alpha lion, that get that position. But once they're in that position, now they have to fight for it every single day, and they usually end up getting injured or something that shortens their lifespan.
Mm,
I thought, well, that's fascinating. Everybody wants to be the alpha lion. What a dangerous position to be in. It could be a lot safer to just be one of the other lions in the pack.
mm,
So then I looked at the lone wolf because I saw these guys with wolves on. I'm a lone wolf, right? The lone wolf. Well, here's what's interesting: if you see a wolf alone in the forest, that wolf is close to death. He's been
mm.
shunned from the pack. A wolf can't live on its own. So we see it in the animal kingdom all the time, where to stand out is dangerous.
Mm.
Then I started to look at humans, and I thought, okay, wait a minute. We're animals in a sense.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens to most humans when they stand out. Zuckerberg, Gates, Elon, Trump, Mayweather, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
It is dangerous as a human to stand out. It really is. All
Yeah.
your skeletons come out of the closet. People start picking you apart, different points of view, different opinions. People are attacking from all sorts of different things, all the hate, all of that stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
it's dangerous. So, across the board in all of the animal kingdom, it is dangerous to stand out. That is why most of us, our default, our natural state is to blend,
Mm.
to be like others, to be similar, to do the same, to hide in the shadows, to hide in the background. Once I got an understanding of our natural state, then I knew that marketing our company, marketing what I am and what I do was going to have to be a constant discipline. It was never going to be natural. It's always going to be something that I have to be conscious of
Mm.
daily. So I remind myself of how important it is to tell my unique story. My story can impact others in a certain way. My unique story is what helps my brand so tremendously because it's no one else has it. I don't
Mm.
share rare stories. We share unique stories. And we're
Mm.
very intentional because your fingerprint, Elise, is different than anyone else's in the world. And our natural tendency is to make all our fingerprints as close to the same, maybe shine one up a little bit or shine this one up a little bit, but we don't really want to naturally stand out. But it is your unique gifts, your unique, what you bring to the table that no one else brings. That is the only thing that's going to allow you to break out of the masses to be able to create one of those storied careers. I'm assuming you know like Grant Cardone, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Look at Grant, right? Look what he's been able to do in the last 7 years. He spent the first 35, 40 years of his career being a little tiny bit controversial, but for the most
Mm,
part, he was a sales trainer in the automotive space.
yeah.
What he was. And it wasn't until he fully embraced his uniqueness. Haters or not, hate me, love
Right.
me, I don't care. Here's who I am, and I'm gonna show you who I am. It wasn't until he did that that I mean, he went from being worth the guy was worth 5 million and now he's worth 4 billion,
Mm,
right?
wow.
And all in like the last literally 7 to 8 years. And
Wow.
so the mindset is this: it's never going to be natural. There will always be doubt. However, through discipline, confidently display what makes you unique. And the people, you will attract the people that you ultimately are the solution for.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. That that blew my mind in many ways. And it was so helpful to hear, like it never goes away. And it
Never.
is that disciplined, conscious awareness of moment by moment, day by day. I'm going to notice when the limiting belief pops up. I'm going to, and then I'm going to know what it is. And I'm going to get focused back again, right, on service and leaning into your uniqueness and knowing the more you lean into that, the more everything you want unlocks for you. And usually our
Yes.
uniqueness, it's what we're most scared of, right? Because there's
Yes.
something that makes us feel like we're going to be isolated or alone. So, oh my gosh, I often feel like this world is like opposite land where we have to lean. It's like do the opposite of what your inclination is to do. And usually you'll be successful. But
It really is.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
the naturally we're pack animals.
Yeah.
Naturally, safety lies in the numbers. This is
Yeah.
why, the majority of people are in the middle class, right? You
Yeah.
have some people that fall below down into the lower class, and then you have even fewer that fall above into the to wealthy status.
Yeah.
But most will stay in the middle class for their entire lives
Mm,
because technically that is the safest position to be in.
yeah.
Me personally, I desire to make the most of every ounce of this life.
Yeah.
And though I know it will be dangerous, I don't want to wake up at 85 years old and regret not doing the scary things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
so I'll do the things that are dangerous every single day, ultimately to live a unique life for me, my wife, my kids,
Yeah.
all the people that we have the opportunity to serve.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like you can't make safety the goal, right? You can't make comfort or safety the goal
No
if you want
way.
to live a fulfilled life. Yeah. Tell us, Glenn, this is so powerful. Last two questions for you. Number one, where can people connect with you if they're like, where has this man been all my life? Or maybe they're like, they're already in your clubhouse room or they're like, what is the best way for people to connect with you and get, just get familiar with what you're doing and how they can work with you?
Yeah, really the best thing to do is go to themorning5.com,
Awesome.
download my free ebook, and that's the number five, themorning5.com. Download the free ebook because I like to start relationships off with an understanding of if you change the way you start your day, it'd make a massive
Yeah.
impact in your life. But B, I like to give. I like to give
Mm,
uh, uh, first. That's where I like to
amazing.
start. So grab that free ebook, download that, check that out, and it's a quick read. You can read it in less than an hour. Hopefully, apply those things, and then from there we can connect. Obviously, all the socials we've got. It's just Glenn Lundy everywhere, and GlennLundy.com, Glenn Lundy on Insta, Glenn Lundy on LinkedIn, Glenn Lundy on Facebook and TikTok, and all the other places. But
Yeah.
I'd most like it if you would start with going to themorning5.com, download the free ebook, and let's go from there.
Amazing. Amazing. And then final question for you. And I love asking this when we have male guests on the show because we've got an amazing, diverse audience. But I've also got to give a tribute to my women, right? She sells radio. So
Right?
for you, I think one of the things that it's like, I know you have to be able to do what you've done, right? It's like we've got to have strong support. And I don't know your wife, but I can imagine that she's incredible. And I'd love to know, like, what is the biggest life lesson you've learned from her along the way, right? She may be a little bit more behind the scenes, right? Not quite as like out in the open, but I'd love to like take a moment to honor her to know, like, what is that most powerful life lesson that she's taught you?
Yeah, so my wife has been, we have 8 children and 7. I have 8 children. My wife and I
Wow.
have 7 together.
Yeah.
And my wife has been pregnant or nursing all but 5 months out of the last 13 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so the biggest lesson I've learned from my wife is go all in.
Mm,
Like, if you're gonna do it, go all in. My wife knows exactly who she is. She knows that she was born to be a mom. She homeschools all of my children.
mm,
She does like gardening and organic stuff around the house.
yeah.
She's introverted, so she does it, very rarely will you see her in any of my stuff. Um, but the best part about her knowing exactly who she is and she's gone all in on that is she allows me to be who I am.
Mm,
I travel and speak on stages. I go all over the place. Like she doesn't want to travel. She has no desire to. There's no jealousy in our relationship. There's no envy in our relationship. There's no communication lapses in our relationship because my wife is 100% Leslie Lundy and she knows who that woman is. And so she empowers herself by being herself and
mm,
allows me to chase my dreams and desires, um, with the assurance of knowing that together we are stronger, even though we might be on like separate paths at
sure.
times.
Yeah.
So that'd be the biggest lesson from her is go all in with who you are.
Mm.
Don't let anybody tell you different.
Ah, oh my gosh, so good. Which is kind of the theme of today, right? Lean into your
That's right.
uniqueness, go all in. That's so powerful. Glenn, this
My
has been
wife's a
one of
boss.
oh,
She's amazing.
I mean, I didn't even have to have met her to know, right? I was like, this woman's incredible. We got to give her some sort of a shout out on the
Yes.
show.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. This has truly been one of my favorite conversations. Like I said, like you've expanded my mind and I thought you would, but it's been in even greater ways than I expected. And I know each of our listeners is moved, inspired, thinking bigger for themselves, thinking more about living into their potential because of what you came on and shared. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
No, thank you. I appreciate you sharing this space and time with me. It really does mean the world to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and to you, my listener, thank you so much for listening today. Hey, as always, if you received value from this, go on and share this episode with your network, tag Glenn, tag me. We always appreciate the love and just sharing the word about, let's share the work about that he's up to in the world. It's so, so powerful. Thank you so much for being a listener of She Sells Radio. And I'll see you next week on our next episode. Bye for now.